What's up, y'all? So check it out. We could look at human history and kind of surmise it or summarize it to be three walkers, all used in cinema. Three walkers: the Skywalker, the Daywalker, and the Moonwalker. If you want to do it in order of release, the Skywalker, the Moonwalker, and the Daywalker. The Skywalker in human history started off as Luke, also transformed as Lucas. Derivative, if you go back into the etymology, you will eventually come down to the term Lucifer. Society was once a torch-bearing society. Human history was full of torch bearers, people who bared the torch, people who were Skywalkers, people who were Luke Skywalkers. And we'll come back to Skywalker in a minute. So we were lighting the way. We had the Age of Enlightenment. We even had groups by the name Illuminati, the illuminated ones, the ones to bring the light, the ones who see the light and have the light to bring the light. So you had that terminology. And you had intelligence being equal to being bright like a light bulb, bright like a light. You had worship of sun deities. You had you had Ra's and things like that. And that was a society that was built on the sun. Everything was I don't know if heliocentrism is the term, but it had to do with the sun, society and human history, in the beginning, or as far back as we can basically record. Everything else will be Akashic, and we can get into like some of the breakdowns on just the Akashic beyond human history later, or in another video perhaps. So we started off as Luke Skywalkers, as a society, as light bearers, bearers of the light, as lucid fire, and from there, day and night go together, sharing the same 24, reaching the 12 twice, the front side of the 12s and the back side of the 12s. On the back side of the 12s, you have the Moonwalkers. And Moonwalkers are very extravagant. Look at the dance moves of Michael Jackson. Still can't be rivaled to this day. The only one who came close was Chris Brown. So you had the Moonwalker person being able to walk backwards, sliding backwards. And a lot of people that were of the light age disagreed with the moonwalkings of society. All moonwalkers were considered prostitutes, night walkers, street workers. All moonwalkers were considered backsliders, because look how the move is done. Look how the move is done. You backsliding, you walking backwards. You facing forward, but you sliding backwards. You a backslider. That's how moonwalkers were. Moonwalkers were termed that way. Moonwalkers were anybody who left a church, left a temple, left a synagogue, left a mosque. They were considered moonwalkers. On the spiritual plane, in the astral plane, they were looked at like moonwalkers. They belong to the night. But us over here, we belong to the day. They belong to the dark. So you already had this polarity going on with the duality, with the conflict between Skywalkers and Moonwalkers. Because the Skywalkers figured, we run the sky, but instead of being just about the sky and being neutral to both day and night, the Skywalker was polarized toward the light. That's why I said that, because the Skywalkers are Jedi. They're Jedi. They're not Sith Lords. They're Jedi Masters. So they represent the light side of the Force, which is really erroneous as a concept, because if you're going to be a Skywalker, then you walk whether it's day, you walk whether it's night. You don't prefer day over night. You don't prefer night over day. If you're a Skywalker, you can handle the night seasons of your life. You can handle the day seasons of your life if you're a Skywalker. So the Moonwalkers were the first to be judged. Society-wise, they were the first to be ostracized, the first to be isolated, the first to be bullied as a people, it was those Moonwalkers. It was the ones who were labeled witches and warlocks and wizards. And not all of them was doing human sacrifices and everything like that, but they threw everybody else in the boat with them because they said, you know what, anything that's not us is them. If you're not us, you're them. They didn't allow for individual expression, didn't allow for individual movement. In order for people to really, it got so bad that people had to look for divinity in numbers. You had Pythagoreans coming out of the woodwork. You had a Pythagorean movement that really had to work with numbers because society was so constricting and so restricting and so prohibiting of any kind of form of free thought that these Moonwalkers were labeled smooth criminals. Dun, 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 dun. Even though they wore white at night, even though their moves were done in a warehouse, even though they knew how to lean with life, they can lean in ways. A moonwalker is hard to hit. A moonwalker has magical movements. A moonwalker's movements can't necessarily be determined. So you had that. And who did you have going after him? Joe Pesci. You had Joe Pesci. And what did he do? He kidnapped kids. And I'll leave that there. But that's saying a lot about society just as it is. And without being polarizing, without being judgmental, I'm not even going to break that down any further. But just the movie put it out there for you already. All right? And the Moonwalker was transhuman too, because, you know, when it came down to the get down and there was no more moves and no more hee-hees that Mike could do against Joe Pesci in the movie, he eventually turned into this robot. He eventually became an AI, became a computer. He eventually turned into Skynet. He eventually turned into the Terminator / Back to the Future. I think he was like half robot, half DeLorean, half, you know what I mean? But he became something that was bigger than anything the army could. He became a giant. He looked into his God self, and he was made out of silver. Like every cloud has a silver lining, silver being the color of moonlight. So he had grew in stature in his fight against Joe Pesci, and them could have been considered Moonwalkers too, because their role was dark. His role was dark. Absolutely. So you have that. And then finally, you come to the Daywalker, the one who was bitten by the vampires, the one whose mama was bitten by a vampire and was born a vampire and was born into sin, but does not want to be a sinner. The Daywalker, the fighter of the bloodsuckers. This is a person and people in society, they are persecuted and not always famous and not always portrayed in a positive light. If you go on script, you have like your Apostle Pauls who started off as Pharisees, and then when they finally switched and went to Christian, all the Pharisees was hunting down their life like that. So to go from one side to the other, you had these Daywalkers. The Daywalker is when you're born into something, but you want to be something else. And again, that has everything to do with that expanding and that leaving away from something old to embrace something new. The Daywalker could do something that the other people of his kind could not. They could not come out in the day. He was born a Moonwalker. Daywalker was born a Moonwalker. Artificially, yes, but still produced a Moonwalker. But deep down inside, organically, he was a Daywalker. He was born to be a Daywalker. But manipulation started early in his genes and early in his experience to make him appear as a Moonwalker with all of the strengths of the Moonwalkers, but including some of the weaknesses like bloodthirst, like warfare, like competition. You see there? Like conflict. A person who has all the tools of conflict, but knows deep down inside they were born to be a torchbearer, born to be a light. They know that they came out of darkness, but they know that they were born for the light. They are Daywalkers. The vampires, they have to put on sunscreen in order to meet him in the day, but he can walk through the night just as cool. That Daywalker can walk. He can be a Moonwalker. So he slays his own kind, quote unquote. He slays what is associated with his kind and what he is looked at as being on the surface, just another bloodthirsty vampire. So he dedicated his life to slaying the thing that he was wrongfully associated with. Yes, the Daywalker, the one that slayed Deacon Frost, the minister of iciness, the minister of cold, ice, treachery, the ninth circle of hell, according to Dante Alighieri, treachery. So the one who was naturally born a Daywalker, but labeled a Moonwalker, slays the deacon of cold and the priest of treachery. All of this has happened and is happening and will happen in human society. Just look around. All of this is still true to this very moment. So those are the three walkers in a nutshell. And if you had to choose, be all three, because it is a trinity. Skywalker, Moonwalker, Daywalker. Don't eliminate either. You have to know how to walk in the day. You have to know how to walk in the night. You have to know how to deal with the people who are civilized. You have to learn how to deal with the people who are quote unquote uncivilized. And that makes you a sky god. Because one thing we can say about both day and night, both sun and moon, they do appear in where? The sky. So if you're a Skywalker, you can go between both poles, from left to right, from light to dark. You understand good and evil. You understand this or that. You understand positive, negative. You understand giving, receiving. You have the spectrum. And the one who holds the spectrum holds the scepter. Peace.